Hey everybody.
It's like GMA.
Huh?
It's like Good Morning America.
Give me an action.
Go.
Hi everybody. This is Rich Ramirez from East Rosebud Fly and Tackle. I'd like to welcome you to a new fly tying segment for our fly shop. We've got Juice's World, Pierce OJ, experienced guide, good friend, one of the best tires I know. Kick back, enjoy, but more important, party time! Excellent!
Sorry, that caught me off guard. Fuck.
Juice, we're live.
Good evening, San Diego. This is the Juice. Tonight's top story, Trout Spey. What can Trout Spey do for you? We'll be tying a this just in, I'm receiving viewer commentary. Question from Bob in Cowpoke, Texas. Do you prefer trailer park kitty fur over traditional beaver fur? Great question, Bob from Cowpoke, Texas. I find that the trailer park kitty fur is slightly longer, and I can tie a little bit more of a fly that has a little bit more movement, whereas traditional beaver fur tends to be a little bit more dense and rigid. Something you'd use maybe as a prop for your single shoulder intruder, if that makes sense to you. Great question, Bob. So our first step here is traditional rabbit is too thick. That is too thick for a Trout Spey fly. This is going to be hindered in its movement, and kind of one of our engagement criteria I think that's totally important to streamer fishing is having movement. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut this rabbit strip in half. Plus it doubles your bag of bunnies. So what I like to do is secure it in my vise, provide good pull straight down the length of it, and then I'm going to take a Wilkinson sword here and I'm going to hit the center of the strip, and I'm just lightly going to carve straight up the middle all the way to my thumbnail. Careful not to cut yourself here. And I was just not quite deep enough there. We're going to slice right down it. Beautiful. And we're going to generate two thinner strips. These will have the same profile in the water as your traditional rabbit strip. However, these are going to be a lot lighter, so you can throw them on those lighter switch rods, and they're going to have a lot more movement. So we're going to cut it out of the vise. We're going to separate our strips here, and we're going to get to tying. So our first step here is we're going to use an HMH tube fly tool. I've found that this is actually the best shank tool for any flies you tie on shanks. A good friend of mine, Kevin Harris, actually showed me this trick. And we are going to secure our shank here right in the front of the hook. Take our thread, start our thread somewhere in there. You really don't need much. We're going to use kind of a composite loop here. Now we're going to take our trailing wire here. This is just kind of standard coated bead wire. You can pick it up at any craft store. You can use the Senyo wire if you feel a little bit more comfortable with that. And what we're going to do is we're going to pinch with our fingers and kind of make a loop. And then before we tie our fly, we're going to pinch that into a more defined loop there. We're going to set it to the length we want it. I find about 2 inches seems to be the perfect length. Might go a little bit shorter than that. Right in there to the back of the tool. I prefer the wire to a Power Pro or a braid like that, because trout, when they eat, they tend to smack it in the head or grab it by the tail. You know, there's really 3 types of eats. There's the, this is a legitimate food source to me, I want to consume it. There's the, what the hell are you doing on my lawn, kid, eat. And then there's the, I'm going to pretend I'm a cat and just kind of grab at the tail of this bug while it swings in front of my face. So I found with the wire you get a little bit better hookup ratio just because that hook's in kind of a fixed position regardless of what the rest of the bug's doing. So we're going to tie our wire down. I like to do just a couple of loose wraps just to kind of get it on top of the shank there. And we're going to get up to the eye of the hook. And then you can either fold it back or cut it off there. For posterity's sake, we'll fold it back and we'll finish tying it off. We're going to snip our wire out there. Finish covering it up here. And now we're going to apply Zap-A-Gap. Do a little bead, and you can always, just spread it out along the length of the fly. Make sure your wire doesn't go anywhere. Pick up the excess there. And now we're going to tie in our rabbit strip. And the way I like to do my rabbit strip is I like to reverse tie it, almost like bucktail. So we're going to lay our strip forward here and come back down to right about there. We're going to lay our strip forward. And what this does is it actually kind of props your tail up in the water. Fold it back, get an idea where we're at, and the beautiful thing about this fly is it's kind of a good model system. We can use this for anything. And then we're going to take a pinch of peacock eye stub because peacock eye stub is awesome. And we're going to kind of dub this on in and around our rabbit strip to kind of provide that prop and hide some of that white thread. The beauty of white thread is you can always cover it up with Sharpie of your choosing. So we're just going to lay down a little bit of peacock eye stub behind the bug. Come back in here with a little bit more dubbing. Kind of just take a nice pinch. Put it on sparse and roll it on. That way all the fibers have contact with the thread. Give you a little bit more durable bug. Now we're going to jump in front, behind, careful not to trap any of our bunny. We're going to come in front and stop like that. See how that kind of props our tail up? It'll lay right in the water, but right now it's going to be a little bit propped up. Alright, now we're going to go to our shoulder. So the first element to our shoulder is rad. Rad is another one of those engagement criteria. So what we're going to do is we've got reflector flash. What is that? Polar reflector flash and rad. Kind of any of your fibrous red tinsels would adequately do this job. We're going to take it off the hank. We're going to cut it. We're going to roll the braid on top of itself, kind of organize all of our fibers there, and we're going to cut them to length. The length is up to you. I like to leave them a little bit longer because I like that definite red, so that's about 3/4 of an inch, and we're going to lay that on our vise just so it's out of our way here. Now we're going to grab our, let me make sure I get this right, Senyo's Aqua Veil Chenille in truffle butter. Fly tying takes a modern twist. Alright, we're going to roll the braid together. So we've got the braid rolled together. We're going to kind of try and line up the tips as best we can. This isn't critical, and we're just going to cut it right off the braid. And we're going to set that aside. we're going to take a little bit more peacock eye stub here, and we're going to make our scrim to lay our bunny on. So we're going to pull out a relatively generous amount here, and now we're going to line up the fibers, and this is just kind of done in your fingers. And now we're going to spread out those fibers to the point where they're 2.5 inches, 2 inches, somewhere in there. We're going to take our truffle butter aquavale chenille, and we're going to put that at the head of the scrim, and then we're going to put that red polar reflector flash at the bottom half of it. So now we're going to take our black barred rabbit strips in tan, and we're going to cut the head of the fly here. So I just go somewhere up on the strip, and you really don't need much here. Call it, an inch. We're going to cut the hide. And now we're going to cut the bunny off of the hide, and we're going to do this right here in our hands. We're going to roll the bunny forward. We're going to get all the tips of the bunny aligned. And we're going to cut that right off the hide. Perfect. We're going to lay that bunny right on top of that truffle butter. And now we're going to cover that scrim with just a light smattering of peacock eye stub. Doesn't take much at all. All done directly below our vise here. We're going to make our dub loop here. So we're going to take kind of that composite loop we made, and we're just going to delicately pick it all up and put that whole assemblance in the dub loop. It's not as scary as it seems. It'll all work out. Whoops, that's backwards. We're going to take it out, and we're going to flip it, knowing that we can always add more rabbit if we need to. We're going to put it in our loop here. Make sure everything, I like a 50-50, it provides a little bit more pop. Depending on how you position that in your loop, 60-40, 70-30, 80-20, you can decide how big the shoulder is. 50-50 kind of provides that biggest shoulder, but on a small Trout Spey bug, it really doesn't matter. So we're going to spin this whole assemblance together now. This thing spins a little funny. Just kind of keep spinning it on your finger there. There it goes a little bit. There we go. Pull it tight. And now we're going to take this handy little MFC finger comb. It's basically a pet brush, but it goes on your finger. And I found there's nothing better for anything with a composite lube. And we're going to kind of pluck everything out. We're going to get an even representation of all of the materials we placed into the fly. And we're going to be left with something like that where we're almost down to the thread. Now we're going to comb all of our material back, and we're going to make really tight thread wraps here. We're actually going to come back. We're going to come back all the way to the start of our bunny for our wrap of red polar reflector flash. That's kind of the gill, or maybe it's a wounded bait fish. Who really knows what the trout's eating it for? And now we're just going to make touching turns all the way to the eye. Right up to the eye of the hook. We're going to tie that off. Couple wraps in front, couple wraps behind. Snip our thread here. And just for posterity's sake and safety's sake, so we don't lose all our progress, we're going to throw a quick whip finish over that. We'll come back and glue that together, and we're going to go back in there with our brush, and anything that's going to fall out in the water is going to fall out right now with our brush. And we're going to kind of aggressively brush this. The one thing I was amazed when I tied with Jerry French was how hard he brushed his flies. He put some stank on those bugs. He really, you know, got in there, and if a fiber was going to fall out, he was going to take it out. And so what you're left with is kind of this wacky looking bug, and we're going to cut our tail to length here. We've got just a little too much tail material. We're going to peel back the rabbit strip. We're going to wet it. We're going to come in and we're going to make a perpendicular split. And if you've got really good scissors like the razor scissors, you can do this. You can put a little triangle cut in there, and that makes a nice little taper. Take it out of your shank tool, hold it up to these lights, get a good inspection. Blow on it a few times for, you know, posterity's sake. Make it look good. It's kind of your base sculpin. Mic drop.